Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is 5 decisions I'd like to see WoTC make in 2018. So it's the twilight of 2017. What a year it has been. Full of kind of fun sets, terrible draft environments, and a lot of like ups and downs as far as the formats, especially with Standard. I think out of all of the years WoTC has kind of existed, I feel like 2017 has been one of the most tumultuous out of all the years I've been playing currently. That does include bans, of course, like Jason Mind Sculptor and things like that. It just seems like a lot of things happened this year that went the complete opposite way of what WoTC was expecting. So here's hoping 2018 comes with a lot of changes for us that we can actually look forward to and maybe even like actually be excited for in the next year. And since today would be an upkeep video, but there really isn't that much news besides some like Dominaria artwork leaked, I really wanted to kind of put out the 5 things that I would personally love to see in 2018. And of course, before I get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff, because of course that keeps the lights on and helps the channel grow. Okay, these are presented in no particular order. All right, so the first one for me is to balance Standard. I have here on my notes, ban, attune, / print answers sooner / playtest more thoroughly. Thanks to the announcement of the play design group that WoTC's wanting to do, I feel like we'll have a more balanced Standard in probably the next year. However, while energy is out in the format right now, I feel like we're still going to have a problem dealing with energy kind of consuming the metagame. If I look at the Standard metagame on MTG Goldfish right now, the #1 deck with 32.52% of the meta right now is Teamer Energy. That's a large portion. Keep in mind in the top 10 here, we have Teamer Energy, 4-color Energy, and another 4-color Energy deck. I do want to say this though, I don't think Energy is necessarily a bad mechanic. I think it's a fun mechanic. I just think that there are a lot of ways that Energy just can't be interacted with. The same reason why Infect is so good when it was in Standard, and when it got into Modern, it basically had half of its repertoire banned because of how much it can just be broken. And I feel like Energy is in a similar way in the Standard format. While I don't think there is one singular Energy card that makes it above the rest, better, as far as just being amazing, like a Scarab God or something like that, I do think cards like Attune with Aether are cards that need to be seriously looked at, because it is the singular reason why we have these 4-color Energy strategies that are just ridiculously powerful. I will give them credit though with cards like a Solemnity in the Amonkhet block, they're trying to have answers for the Kaladesh block, but at the same time, Solemnity is a 3-mana enchantment that really can't do much against an Energy strategy, and it's kind of like a dead card in your sideboard if you're not playing against Energy. It has a bad way of dealing with it because Solemnity has such a narrow field of focus. If it was a creature or an enchantment that was maybe 2 mana, there might be some argument there that it might be a little bit better, but I think just overall Energy is just so overpowered compared to the rest of what's in Standard at the moment. And it's kind of sad too, because cards in Ixalan can be really fun, but it's you can't really play them because of the amount of Energy cards in the format. So it just kind of pitches the entire format towards a singular block, which is the Kaladesh block. And I feel like cards like Amonkhet and Ixalan have a lot of really great cards within them, but we really can't use them because Energy just kind of blows them out of the water. So yeah, if they would do anything to balance Standard, I feel like banning Attune with Aether might be the answer to that. But at the same time, we'll have to see what happens with Rivals of Ixalan next week. If we do have some really great cards that just answer Energy really, really well, then I would definitely be changing my mind about banning Attune. Next up for me would be to either bring back dual decks or make a supplemental set that's similar to dual decks, since they are taking those away. One of the things they're bringing in place of the dual decks is the Challenger decks, which are going to be 75 card decks built for Standard, and I feel like that's kind of completely against what a dual deck actually represented. The dual decks were $20 for 2 different decks, 2 60-card decks that had cards that were actually answers or cards we needed copies of in either Modern, Vintage, Legacy, all those kind of things. The more Eternal formats, the commons and uncommons, of course, as well as some rares, like the Merfolk deck having some Modern Merfolk cards in that deck list. I think that's pretty cool. I think the reason you need something like this is especially a great example for me this Christmas. On New Year's Eve, we actually got to open up some gifts for my grandmother's Christmas, and I had one of my aunt's kids there, and he plays Magic, and so what I got him for Christmas was the Merfolk versus Goblins dual deck. So as soon as you open the gift up, we cracked it open, and we actually played each other right then and there. And I think that's the advantage of those kind of products, and we really don't have that anymore when you get rid of dual decks. It's a product that's lasted 10 years, and it's something that to just get rid of so flippantly just doesn't make any sense to me. So either WoTC needs to tell us that something is coming down the pipeline that is similar to that, like a Versus deck or something like that, or maybe they're wanting to split up things, like maybe make a modern event deck or a pauper event deck, something like that. I think that would be really cool too. Either way, I think getting rid of the product of a dual deck is kind of like the weirdest decision you can possibly make, especially when event decks never did really well. Like there was 1 or 2 decks that were good, and then after that they kind of like didn't matter at all. And especially when standard rotates, the decks are just dead product on a local game store shelf. Dual decks, however, kind of had like that nostalgia factor. Merfolk versus Goblins, you want to pick it up because of the Merfolk and the Goblins. You want to play it because it's 20 bucks, and you can play it right then and there and have a kind of semi-competitive modern deck to be able to play with. I think that was the advantage of that product, but again, we don't have that. So I think that they need to make like a secondary product that was similar to this, that also kind of fills the market with more cards for the more eternal formats. I think that's a good idea and needs to be looked at into the future. On top of that, another point for me would be to include more modern and eternal format cards in standard sets as we go forward. One of the biggest problems I keep seeing as far as the new sets coming out is that there's only like 1 or 2 cards that are in the new format or in the new set that really have any like eternal playability. Like they play in standard and then you basically just throw it away. And that's really sad. There are a lot of great cards that get printed in Ixalan that have fantastic artwork, have fantastic like cool flavor that either gets put in a commander deck forever, which is great, or doesn't get played at all because it's just draft chaff, which is very sad to me. And then you have cards like Fatal Push, which is an Aether Revolt, which is like almost the only card in the entire set that you want to keep, besides maybe like a Heart of Kirin or something like that, that you want to use in modern for future decks. So that's like the opposite problem. So you have things where people are buying into Aether Revolt for 1 card and not buying boxes of Aether Revolt for other supplemental cards. And I think that's crazy. Now, of course, the thing that WoTC did that I think is kind of interesting, which was to kind of balance out like terrible cards in the actual standard sets, and that was making the Invocations, the Masterpieces, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a good idea, but I think turning them into lottery boxes just for those things doesn't necessarily add to the standard format, which is like really in need of cards that are really powerful to battle decks like the energy deck that we just talked about. I really do feel like if we had more modern playable cards in the standard environment, even though they're very powerful, even though people will probably want to pull those cards, kind of like if we reprinted a Blood Moon in like the next Rivals of Ixalan, something crazy like that, like in the standard set. I think those kind of cards are good enough to be like in the set and worth it. Like again, like in draft, if you're thinking about it's going to like, you know, make draft really ridiculous, then so be it. I mean, you're going to have a bomb that's going to be amazing anyway. I mean, Charging Monstrosaur was like the best card in draft in Ixalan, and it was an uncommon, you know. But one of the worst uncommons in Ixalan was Kopala, which is like a really decent modern Merfolk card. So it's just like, if you want to make a card that's like playable and modern, maybe make the card where it's like not very synergistic with the rest of the set or something like that, to where they don't pick it in draft or something like that. I think that's probably a good idea too. And again, this is just me like just rambling stuff off the top of my head. I'm not like writing a script down or anything for this particularly. But I think things like when the Invocations were in the Amonkhet block, you had cool situations in draft where people would pull one and be like, oh, this is awesome. But sometimes those cards were actually kind of terrible for a draft environment. So you kind of had to pass them. So in a more competitive environment, it actually solves your problem there, because people are probably going to want to pass cards that are unsynergistic with the rest of the set or the rest of their deck, things like that. But also rewards players who buy into the set. I think that's a good idea. I also think making sure that there are good cards in the sets for the Eternal formats going forward makes sure that the product or the box has a higher content value for us, so that way that local game stores can actually sell it for the price instead of selling it for cost. And I think that like at the end of the day, making local game stores happy and making like people who buy into the market happy, a good idea. Okay, so next up, I wanted to talk about like the new gift boxes and kind of changes I feel like could be cool going forward. And I feel like the gift box we have right now from 2017 is kind of a piece of crap. I don't want to be mean, but like the boxes we had previously were actually like could be used as a card box, had foils in there as well as packs, and then like dividers. And I thought that was awesome because it's like, okay, this is like baby's first set, baby's first like collection. I think that was really cool. I think the new gift boxes are kind of too much like the Pokemon gift boxes, but at the same time, they don't offer the same value that the Pokemon gift boxes offer. Even like the Yu-Gi-Oh gift boxes, I saw some of those on Target a couple days ago and was like, this is awesome. It's got like a oversized Dark Magician, a small Dark Magician, and then like 3 packs, and then like another thing. And I was like, this is really cool. And while yes, Yu-Gi-Oh may not have the same value proposition that Magic does have, it does have the same like nostalgia factor for some people that makes them want to buy in for just that oversized card or something like that. I think offering those kind of things, just like they do in the Commander products, is a good idea. It needs to be used in probably the gift boxes. I also think offering more types of formats for gift boxes would be cool too. So the gift boxes primarily or normally standard. So maybe make one that's like just for like say modern, or maybe even like Pauper, because Pauper is like kind of on the rise right now randomly. I think those are all good ideas, and I think that we need to at least kind of explore something before we just kind of shut it down completely. I think the like tweak they did is interesting, but I feel like if they're not going to like try and they're just going to use like, you know, overstock of like print runs or something like that and put them into the packs, I feel like that's kind of just a wasted effort and a product no one wants to buy. Honestly, the only product that I saw this Christmas that I wanted to buy as a gift that's a Magic related content thing that's like on the shelf like a Walmart or a Target or a local game store was either like Iconic Masters packs, or maybe some Modern Masters packs, or maybe even like the Merfolk versus Goblin dual deck, because it has like nostalgia and you can both play at the same time. I think that was cool. But of course, again, that's me rambling. It's just my opinion. So that's 4 things. And the 5th thing for me, I feel like, is something that a lot of people have talked about already, and I'm not really going to hit on too much because it's just like, I feel like everyone's pummeled WoTC to death on the situation, and they have kind of like semi-commented on it, but not really. And then we have like new stuff that's kind of better, but not really. And that is, of course, the print quality and the print run stuff. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it too much, of course, because I feel like everyone on the internet talks about it like every single moment of every, you know, time. But it's just like, it's one of those things that I just, you know, I want you guys to know that I know too, you know, right? I know. And that's something that they need to work on. Yeah. And I think they know that too, obviously. I think, you know, the unstable stuff was definitely one of the things that they looked at and they tried to experiment with. And I feel like a lot of people came back from that thinking that, well, the cards do have a better feel to them, better quality, and better color to them. And I think that's great. So I feel like, you know, they are looking to like change the situation. And I feel like we probably won't see that until Dominaria, honestly, as far as like the print run itself, since it's so far out. So I kind of want to be patient on this one. But it is one of those things where it's just like, you know, this is a product that's a collectible card game, you know, and it's also a trading card game. But it's like people also kind of sell these for like money and stuff. But if they're printed on cards that kind of warp and like, you know, do crazy stuff like that, like people won't want to invest in it. And you really need to fix that as soon as possible, you know? I think that's, of course, like the giant elephant in the room for WoTC right now that needs to get fixed. That's like, that should be like their top priority. Of course, there are all the little nitpick things that we just talked about earlier, but I think this is probably their top priority moving forward. But of course, guys, those are my top 5 decisions I'd like to see WoTC do in 2018, and I would love to hear what your top 5 are in the comments below. Please let me know. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel. I have lots of content coming here in 2018. Super excited for you guys. And yeah. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.